Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're going to get started because we have a loyal group watching from home, so we don't want to keep them waiting. So, welcome to all of you for our number 3 Sip Talk Learn this year, and the last one for the 6th season. So, we'll look forward to welcoming you back in January of next year. Um, I've been asked to remind people after we're done today to please come up and look at the easels here because there's lots of cool stuff about the Opening Doors campaign. And so while you're here, we hope you'll take a look. Um, let's see. I think a lot of people here have been here before. I'm Tucker Smith, as you know, from the Welcoming Committee. And it's always hard to think of something new to say about this. I said, Daryl, what can I say different? We've done the same thing for 18 times. It's hard to come up with something new. So I'll just stick with the usual. I just want to remind each of the speakers that you please introduce yourself, and then you can give a quick introduction about your talk if that would help. If not, you just tell Lucy, our timekeeper, that you're ready to start the clock. And at the end, if you can open it up for questions. And what I would also ask you to do is to repeat the question that you hear from the audience so that the people at home can hear you. That would be wonderful. I think all the speakers know the order, but if you need help with that, just ask. We're going to start with Ann Van Ness today, and then Susie, you're on deck.
So I have to assure, let's see, does this raise up? Oh, I see, okay, there we go. So I have to assure you, I timed it, because I got the hook last time I did this. That was a little bit scary, and then I got all flustered. Now, I was supposed to give this last February 14th, when it was to be sort of a Valentine's sort of, love story kind of thing. The story still holds. Rook's putting his timer on it just so do that. Okay, so there we go. Okay, timer can start now. All right, this is my story about meeting Rook. So this is a story of stars aligning, paths crossing, a chance encounter with far-reaching consequences. One of those examples of something that was just meant to be. A common question asked of couples is how they met. So let's go back 42 years to March 1983, a cold, dreary Saturday. I'd moved to Boston a year and a half before, but my work schedule was making it difficult to get to know those outside of work. I'd been working all morning on a transaction that was time-consuming, complex, exhausting. I was a wreck. I decided on my way home from work that I needed a companion to liven up my one-bedroom apartment. What better companion than a nice, warm, cuddly goldfish? So as I'm walking home across the Boston Commons, bagged goldfish in hand, I see a work colleague walking towards me. With her was this very cute, red-haired, mustachioed man with gold wire-rimmed glasses, sporting a yellow down vest that went very well with his rosy red cheeks. But preparing myself for the fact that this man was likely more than a friend to this work colleague, I thought I'd better curb my enthusiasm. Now let's switch the conversation taking place between these two approaching. I'm told it went as follows. My work colleague is saying to the man, "Do you remember that woman I was telling you about that you should meet?" To which the man says, "Yes, I do. And do you remember that I told you I don't like setups and to drop the idea?" Her next words were, "Well, you have no idea but to meet her, as she is headed our way." The man, of course, was Rook, and it turns out he was as taken as I was, although I wonder it was more my cuddly goldfish than me. That little Piscine pet proved to be the perfect purchase. After that brief encounter in the Commons, Rook asked my work colleague for my number. When I got his call, of course, I feigned, "Oh, I don't really quite remember. Oh, yes." And so after that, we had our first date. And even after that, it was clear we were going somewhere together on a long, fun road. As for the work colleague that connected us, she was heartbroken, having had her sights set on Rook. Who could blame her? Hoping that after failed introductions, there had been others. He would finally see she was more than a friend. While his story didn't have a happy ending for her, it certainly did for me and Rook. Well, I can't imagine what anybody would want to know about, but are there any questions? You might want to know what kind of goldfish it was? Just, little gold. Oh, a long time. In our family, we keep our pets a long, long time. And I think that one lasted maybe 5 years, maybe. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, only one. I don't know. Well, I only had one. Oh, you know what I had? I had it in a lab thing, you know, a big lab vat. Only room for one. I know. Probably should have had two. Anyway. How did he propose? Oh, my goodness. Oh, I know. That was at Felicia's in the North End. Yep. You can tell that story.
Well, the Harvard Glee Club happened to be there that night, and
They didn't sing to me. They didn't sing to me.
I had taken.
Talking to the mic so that people at
Oh,
home
sure.
can hear you.
Oh, sorry. The Harvard Glee Club had been at Felicia's that night, and they were singing. I had no idea I was going to. I knew I was going to propose because I had the ring with me, obviously. And I had no idea the Glee Club was there, so it just added a whole nice atmosphere to the, asking
I
her.
thought he planned it, but
No, it was not at all planned. But I had steak marsala. I remember that.
I don't remember what I had.
So, any other questions?
Okay, I'm Susie Rowe, and 10 years ago, my husband and I co-founded a school in an orphanage in Tanzania. At that time, there were 9 kids, and now we have 650. So this is, I'm going to share with you this morning an excerpt from the preface to my second book, which hopefully I actually finish. But if not, you will have heard a snippet of it here. Ebenezer is on the run. He's on the run from his father, and his father has tried to kill him twice. I can't see very well here. That's my problem.
I wonder if we moved it up under the light. Can you come with me?
Can't
See if that's any better.
Move the microphone.
I will. Oh.
The
Oh.
old-fashioned way. Thank you, RL.
Thank you. Now I can see the page. Okay. Ebenezer is on the run. His father has twice tried to kill him, and home is no longer a safe place to be. He's hungry, tired, and exhausted when he finally shows up in the company of his mother. When a child comes to see us, to join us, they're greeted by the regulars who have heard of a new arrival and have been on the lookout ever since. The children, having lived in the home for at least a year, are young enough to recall how scary it was and old enough to know what to do to reassure the newcomer. Once kids are, the new kids, still hard to see, sorry. The new kids arrive subdued. Some are very young. And all the students cluster to try and compete for a hand to hold. Once the pecking order, for sleeping privileges has been satisfied, the committee, welcoming committee of kids marches the newcomer down to the hall where the clothes are stored. They go through the clothes and choose carefully one item for every kid. And so we see the clothing, some tennis jackets, some Red Sox gear, and the kids are thrilled. When Ebenezer was 5, his father decided that he was not his biological child, and so set about trying to dispose of him. First, he twisted rags and tried to choke him, and then he tried rat poison. But nothing worked. Set the 1 minute. Soon the rest of the kids and a few siblings were remanded to our care. In the days and weeks that followed, Ebenezer had plenty of friends and began ultimately to run with the pack. Now he's an A student and hopes to go to college when he's older. That's it for now.
The orphanage now.
About 600, well, we have an orphanage and we have 2 schools. Yeah. And so the kids who end up in the orphanage are kids who really need to be there because of their family situation. But most of the kids are day kids, and they walk to school from wherever they live, which is tough. We feed them 3 times a day, so they get fed.
So if someone wanted to look it up, it's called Precious Project, is that correct?
Preciousproject.org. It will take you to the website and the history and the pictures.
Speak into the microphone so that people at home can hear you. Sorry.
Preciousproject.org will take you to the website, the history, lots of great pictures, and my neighbors know. It's once you get on our mailing list, you get a lot of mail.
Susie, has First Parish has provided some funding over the years?
Yes, we could use more. You funded us at the very beginning when we were tiny. And now, yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions?
Susie, will you come back and tell us the story about your childhood and your illustrious father?
Sure. What am I going to say? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I've seen a mic before. Hello, friends.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, RL. I'm Steve Johnson. I've been hanging around the First Parish for a while, and I am so honored to have been preceded by 2 of my former schoolmates. Anne was a classmate of mine at the University of Pennsylvania, class of 1974. Susie was a couple of years ahead of me at the Northfield School for Girls. Her sister, Mish, was a classmate of mine, class of 1970, at Mount Hermon Northfield School. In any case, I'm so honored to proceed to follow you too. My story, and Lucy, don't start my timer yet. Lucy, don't even think of it. I have no notes, but I did practice it. I think I can do it in under 3 minutes, but don't start yet. So this is a love story that is held over from February 14th. It was meant to be, one of those stories. And Tucker, we were snowed out. Is that what happened to us? Yeah.
It turned into a nothing storm, but at 6 in the morning we didn't know. So we
Right,
had to call.
right. Well, okay, so here's a leftover, not a leftover, a held over love story. Yeah. Okay, Lucy, run them. So it was Friday the 13th, April 13th, 1984. I was flying from Washington National. It was not yet Reagan. Say no more. To Seattle to bury my father. And I was the Senate's aviation lawyer. Don't ask, that's a story for another day. I didn't know a lot about airplanes, but I was the Senate aviation lawyer. And halfway between D.C. and Chicago, a clumsy steward dropped half a dozen dinner trays on me and covered me from head to toe with leftover airplane dinners. This is when airlines were still serving dinners. It dates me, right? And so I said to the steward, can I have a dry cleaning voucher? And he said, no, you don't look that bad. I thought, really? Friday the 13th, my only suit, no dry cleaning voucher? Anyway. So I went down the aisle to get cleaned up in the head. I made several trips down the aisle to get cleaned up in the head, and there was a woman 10, 12, 13 rows behind me with a smile that lit up the airplane. And I thought, whew. Anyway, I made more trips up and down the aisle, and she was doing her tax return. It was April 13th, and I was actually doing my tax return. So somewhere over maybe North Dakota, I had been thinking about this for a while. How can I talk to this woman? And I approached her and I said, oh, 1 minute. I said, I see you're doing your tax return. I've just finished my tax return. Would you like to borrow my calculator? Possibly the worst pickup line that ever. And she looked up at me with a big smile and she said, oh, no, thank you. The sums are so small I can do them in my head. And anyway, I was so charmed by her answer that I talked to her for the next hour across Montana and Idaho and into Seattle. And by the time we got there, I had her phone number. She was going to north of the Arctic to take the communications ministers of 10 developing nations on a tour of Alaska's satellite communications system by dog sled and light airplane. And I thought, I have a cool job. Her job is so much cooler than mine. And I got back to D.C., and I called the vice president of congressional relations for American Airlines. I said, Gene, you want 3 new gates at Minneapolis-St. Paul? It's not happening. Your steward didn't give me a dry cleaning voucher. I said, Gene, I'm just kidding. I think I may have met my future wife. Let's call it even. Questions? Lindsay, I'm not sure I did. I mean, to bury my father. Yeah, I mean, I might have. I honestly don't remember. I was so impressed, that she was going dog sledding and light airplaning in Alaska with development ministers, and I was just a stupid Senate lawyer. Yeah. Thanks.
So Natalie, you're up next, but I wanted to just send a hello to John Legates, who's home sick today. He was next in line, and he loves Sip Talk Learn, so he was very sorry to miss it, but has a bad cold, so he'll be back in January. So Natalie.
Hi, everyone. So I was asking my boyfriend what I should talk about earlier, and let's call it a few days ago, but really it was this morning. And he said, talk about otters. There's a lot of wisdom in otters, so I'm not going to talk about otters, but I figured I'd show you a picture of one from our pond. But what I will tell you about is how I became really great friends with his two roommates, Bobin and Jackson. So these are his roommates. There's Jackson, there's Ben, my boyfriend, there's me, and then there's Bobin. And senior year, I had the pleasure of becoming really great friends with them because, well, more or less, I got a concussion. I was rushing, and I had this really big metal door, and it got in my way, and it was a valiant fight, but the metal door won, and I got a 6-week-long concussion, and this was right before finals, and it was a really stressful time, but I made it through, and one of the things that helped me get through was not being able to look at my computer, not being able to look at my phone, having to talk with all of my professors and talk everything out, and I mean, the only thing that I could do for entertainment was read, kind of without getting a headache, draw, color, and then talk to people. Talk to people, like, that was it. And so one thing that I could do within that was play card games. And so one night I asked them, hey, you're playing video games right now, but do you mind if we play Monopoly Deal? And so we played this game called Monopoly Deal, and it was great because it goes by really quickly. It's only about 15 minutes. It's not like the super long Monopoly. This isn't an official plug for Monopoly Deal, but I would definitely recommend it. And so it was awesome because so much of what we had done was being distracted by our phones, and we never made any sort of a big agreement of let's put away our phones now, or let's take time away from watching TV or being on our computers or whatever. But part of it was that they were being a little bit less studious and slacking off at the end of senior year. But it was very sweet because we would spend time every single night for the last 2 months of college just playing Monopoly Deal every single night. But through that, I gained 2 really great friends, and we even had this one freshman who was Jackson's kind of little mentee on the baseball team, and he would show up, and initially I was like, who is this freshman who's just hanging around? But then I was like, oh, he's such a great person. And so it's a great way to get to know people, and definitely tell your grandkids, kids, whoever, just play Monopoly Deal. Take a second to be off your phone, take a second to be off your computer, and play Monopoly Deal, Scrabble, Bananagrams. There are a billion of them. But it gives you really great friends, and I'm very lucky.
Great story, Natalie.
Thank you.
My question is, why do you have Jonathan Hates The Anxious Generation on?
This is my other plug.
Which is a great book.
Yeah. This is the other part that I was going to say is read this book. Again, I'm not getting paid for it. I wish I was. But yeah, this is an amazing book. He talks about basically mental illness within my generation and how it's so important for young people to get off their phones and spend quality time with each other by doing things like board games and card games.
Or talking to people.
That too.
Yeah. No, it's a great book.
Yeah. It's the anxious generation. How the great rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. Oh, the other thing that I was doing during that time was writing my thesis about adolescence and social media, and so this played into it, and I mean, was a very good reinforcer during the time. Right. Thank you.
Have to call a mic drop, Corey.
Fix it, Arno.
I will. Here we go. Okay, so now, want me just like that. Okay, perfect.
Take that as a sign. As no. Hi everybody. I'm Corey. Corey Flint. We went over the Corey Nimmer thing. I forgot during the talent show that my big joke was going to be because Flint is very sharp and precise, and that's why I stole it from my wife. Nimmer sounds like a kitchen appliance that makes things that are too sharp not as sharp. Like if you overdid it on your knife, you could run it through the nimmer a few times and just nim the edges. And so this story, just for background, I guess the useful background here would be that it was Christmas Eve 2022. My mom, for about a month, had been getting these strange symptoms where they thought she'd had a stroke because she was kind of slurring her words and then losing her balance a lot, and it was getting progressively worse, and they were doing all this testing, and it turned out that she had paraneoplastic cerebellar degeneration, which is an extremely rare syndrome that's associated with gynecological cancer. So it turned out she had ovarian cancer, and it was causing and has caused permanent brain damage to where she basically needs around-the-clock care nowadays. So that's just as the background of the story. But this is the first parish story, and so I thought it would be good here. And Lucy can start the time. You didn't start the time already, did you, Lucy?
I did, but I'll start now.
So I was trying to shave off minutes. So this is almost exactly a year ago. It was the sunrise service just over in the field there. And Nate and Kit had asked if I would be willing to take a few photos. So I'm a photographer, for anybody who doesn't know. And I'm always happy to do that. So I showed up at sunrise, and it was pretty overcast, and I was a little disappointed. But then the sun started kind of peeking up through, and I got excited because I'm like a light nerd, and and so I sort of like I feel like I'm very cat-like and subtle when I'm doing, especially during a service. But so I sort of wove my way into the crowd because I really wanted a specific angle of the sun coming up behind the people singing and playing the fiddle, and it was just this beautiful scene. And so I'm just kind of like in the zone, taking my pictures, clicking away. And a woman I was not familiar with kind of leaned over, and she whispered to me, "I just want to let you know what you're doing is very annoying." And I was just sort of, what the hell? So I just sort of wandered away. I just stopped taking pictures. I was basically sulking. I was like, annoying? What do you mean annoying? I got up at sunrise to do this. I'm trying to be just like a nice guy and doing this. What the? So I'm spinning in my head like I'm just saying really not very nice things about this woman. and it's like it's just like I'm like, but I was like try to shake it off. But then the service ends, and I'm almost like, I'm just gonna go home. I don't even want to talk to anybody. Like it just really got under my skin, and so I sort of started to make my way down the path, and then someone I know waves to me, and she's delayed. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, hi, Corey, how are you? Hey, I want you to meet my wife. And I said, well, we've met, actually. And so I just sort of took a breath and said, yeah, we actually met. And she's like, well, I was just telling. And so we started talking, and it turns out she thought I was just some guy, like, taking pictures that wasn't even part of the church. Like, it was a total misunderstanding. And that would be annoying if a guy was just wandering by taking pictures, like, in the middle of the service. But what was revealed beyond that was that she is the head of the entire department of gynecological cancer at Dana-Farber, and was basically not my mom's direct doctor, but supervised my mom's doctor that, performed a full hysterectomy and saved her life, essentially, in having stage 4 cancer. And so... yeah, she's one of my favorite people now. And yeah, it was kind of a very, you never, if I had just walked away and gone home, I might not have ever found that out. And so it's one of those, be careful if you're being too quick to judge anybody for anything. But yeah, it was a really nice thing. Thanks. Any questions? Yeah, I got one or two. Well, now everybody knows her name. I figured this is kind of pretty easy to figure out. And I did get her blessing, I got Jane's blessing anyway. But and I promised I wouldn't make her look too bad. Sorry, what was the question? Oh yeah, no, we laugh about it now. It's definitely a funny thing in the end. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I just have to, I can't resist a follow-up to that story. About 5 years ago, I think it was, I received an anonymous letter. You're lucky somebody spoke to you directly, telling me that I'd done a crappy job at town meeting. Somebody from this church, I have no idea who it is. I still don't know. If you're here, I would love to hear directly from you. But I have to say I wasn't happy about that, about the anonymity. Fine with me, tell me. As Barbara Sampson knows, I ask to have critique, but not anonymously. So here we go. On an off day from the French Open, Larry and I went into Paris. As we stood in the ticket line at the metro station, a man gestured to me to go ahead of him. I declined. Be sure you secure your important things, he said. I checked my pockets of my backpack just to be sure my money, credit card, and passport were deep inside the zippered bag. With our tickets, we headed to the platform. We entered the train with a crowd. A group of teenagers crowded near me, separating me from Larry. What stop Eiffel? What Notre Dame? What stop? One asked in a string of questions. I tried to shut her off. I'm not from here. I don't know. I don't know. She finally stopped. What are you doing? Someone behind me sternly asked. I turned. Her eyes were on the teenagers. A woman spoke to me in perfect French accented English. You better check your bag to be sure you're not missing anything. I pulled my backpack from my shoulders. The zipper had been opened. The flap was down. I put my hand inside. My money, my credit card, my passport, still there. That's the way I felt too. My body felt as if it would collapse. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You are young people. How would you feel if I stole from you? This is wrong. The teenagers stood with faces of innocence, so blank and unmoved as to confirm their guilt, even without understanding my words. The French woman offered me her seat, my passport, my credit card. What would I do? Our trip. It happens a lot, she said calmly. The girls are not French. Oh, they are Romanian. Romanians? At the next stop, the girls got off, all of them. I realized that the heist could be completed only when the train stopped and the doors opened. Then the girls would grab the bounty from the unzipped bag and escape. And what could I do? I realized the man at the ticket line was part of the scheme. I had noticed that he left the line and did not buy a ticket. He took care to be sure my documents were secure in my zippered backpack and then left to alert the girls. An unsuspecting American is getting on the next train. Get to work. They were standing in wait, ready to pounce. Innocent young teenagers, one would think. Unsuspecting American, for sure. It helped to spend the beautiful day in Paris. On our return trip on the metro and to the French Open evening match, there was an announcement in French and English on the train. Take care of your belongings. That announcement was not made on our way into Paris. We got off at our stop, La Défense, the Defense, a major business district in Paris. Thank you. Any questions? I'm shaking. I don't know if you are, but I'm shaking.
When did that happen, Sarah? Roughly?
It was 23. Yeah. 2023. And we were on our way into Europe, to Austria and Hungary, and then we were meeting Barbara and Chris in England. And if you lose your passport. Yeah, exactly. That's where Larry was at. Thank you.
How are we doing? Yeah, there you go. We good. All right, I am Travis Rowland, member of First Parish, 10 years in Lincoln, love every day here, and it's great to be here. Thank you, Tucker, for putting this on. I'm a rookie here, so bear with me. But who wants to hear a fishing story today? It's actually bigger than this. I think we all have 2, 3, 4, 10, 11 times of our life where we have like a signature moment that kind of changes who we are, affects how we vote, how we think, how we conduct ourselves. And I've had the fortune of traveling the world many times over to various places, Asia, Europe, anywhere, Central America. And some of the times that really stood out were the times in third world countries, where I once saw a guy or a little kid in the Philippines playing with a stick and a wheel, which I thought was kind of gone away in the 1800s, but it's still there. They're all wearing Super Bowl losing T-shirts that were given to them Buffalo Bills especially. And I'm from Gloucester. I'm not too far from here, where I grew up driving boats before I drove cars, and you name it, any size. I lobstered, I harpooned tuna offshore, anything to get myself through college. And so when I started traveling again for fun, I took my fishing rods with me. And the first time I went to Central America, so Costa Rica, Pacific side, I'm like, I got to catch some of these big Pacific fish they have down there. And I went out on some rocks, started casting. I'm like, nope, not going to happen. The Pacific side of Costa Rica is a little treacherous and sketchy. I wouldn't really recommend it. So I'm like, I'm going to find a different way to catch these fish. So I talked to the hotel owner, who was American. He's like, I need to get on a boat. What can I do around here? He's like, talk to the gardener. His son has a boat, and maybe he can arrange it for you. Well, the gardener doesn't speak English. So it's a lot of like this motions going on tomorrow, mañana. And he said, go to his son's house down the street. He has a boat. He'll take you out. I'm like, great. So the next morning, about 7 o'clock in the morning, I get in my car, drive to his house. And as I'm approaching his house, I hear, gringo, gringo, gringo. Come. I'm like, oh, that's me. I never heard that before. I'm like, okay, this should be interesting. And I'm looking for a gentleman named Cedro, who wasn't home, but his wife was there. He's like, she's kind of pointing like that way, where to go find him. He's working. Thank you. And I find him, and lo and behold, he's working for the government with the orange vest, clearing brush and vegetation. I said, let's go fishing. He sees all the dollar signs in his mind. He just rips off his vest, quits the job. He takes me, gets in my car. We're fishing. We're out there catching things I'd never heard of before, like needlefish, one thing called a rooster fish, which is really pretty, a lot of alberjacks, maybe a grouper, definitely some Spanish mackerel, and I think that was it for fish that taste good. Wasn't that much. And he didn't speak English, but we're doing the hand thing all day. I'm actually getting tired. We even caught a pelican who landed on our boat. Things are huge. And I thought, this is like the best day ever. I caught all these fish. I told him, like, no more. My arms are tired. And he gets on his VHF radio and says something to somebody back on shore. We're in a tiny little boat with like an 8-10 horsepower engine. So it took a while to get back. And as we approached the beach to get back on shore, to pull the boat up, I see about 10, 15 kids waiting for us. I'm like, oh, this should be interesting. And the whole time I've been like, I'm from Gloucester, I can fillet fish. I'm like doing this, I'm like looking. These kids came up to us with ear-to-ear smiles, and I'm in a hotel. I don't need fillets of fish. I'm just passing out fish to these kids, and they could not have been happier. And that's probably one of the best days of my life, is feeding. I fed a village that day. So. Right, cash and nets to the other side. So if you need any fishing trips in Costa Rica, look for Cedro, and be ready to use a lot of hand signals. So there you go. Any questions? Okay. There you go.
Look at that. All right. You can start just because I want to get this over with. You know how you say it was the most embarrassing moment of my life? Well, I've had lots of those. But this story isn't about the one where the over-bleached rubber sole of my sneakers separated from its canvas during a tennis match with a really cute Harvard co-ed. That was the second worst. It was a turning point of sorts. September always feels that way, the slower pace of summer giving way to the quicker pace of fall. And with the change of seasons, the summer heat shifting into a chill in the air. And further north, where I was headed that day, it would be even chillier. Bundle up, I thought. The plan was to drop Ben at boarding school in Maine, timing the return trip so that Anna and I would be able to attend the ordination of Frank Clarkson, a former student minister at the First Parish in his home church in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. As always, it was a tearful drop off at school. My tears, not Ben's. We found our way to the Unitarian Church in Portsmouth and squeezed into an already full south-facing pew. And as a shaft of sun found its way to our pew, it seemed to stall. And as it did, my layered clothing proved too much for its heat, and I started to sweat. I don't mean that I had a glow about me. I mean, rivers of sweat began to pour out of every pore of my body. Stinky, stinky sweat. Surely those around me must smell me. I knew I wanted to personally thank Frank for the pastoral care he had given my mom, even driving from Lincoln to Friendship, Maine, to pray with her in her summer home. So I didn't want to skip out on the reception. I decided that I'd head to the ladies' room immediately after the ordination service and wash my pits. When my eyes caught the sight of the canister of orange-scented room spray on the back of the toilet, I grabbed it and took direct aim at my armpits. I remember something about it being naturally scented, though I knew from my reaction to it, well, that was far from the truth. Immediately, there was a burning sensation, and at closer inspection, my armpits were a shocking shade of fire engine red. I think they were on fire. Well, this was not good. I wanted to shout, "Is there a doctor in the house?" But decided that alarm might be a little extreme and would certainly spoil the dignity of the occasion. No, a doctor was a bit extreme. However, a nurse would be helpful in this situation. I scanned the reception room, and there she was, Rosemary. Many of you might not know it, but Rosemary Lloyd was a nurse in her former profession. "Rosemary, help!" I shouted from a distance. She answered the alarm and rushed towards me. I quickly blurted out my situation. She grabbed me by the arm and dragged me into the church kitchen. Rifling through the cupboards, she found a box of baking soda, mixed it into a poultice, slapped it under my armpits, and secured it with baggies full of ice. Sad to say, I missed the chance to thank Frank for the kindness he had shown my mom. While I shivered, Anna drove me home.
Any questions? So Rosemary, have you ever treated that before? Have you ever treated a patient like that before? Corey is up again. And Brett Meyer isn't here, is he? Okay, I won't blow your secret this time.
I think most people figured it out if they know. Here I am again. I ran into Tucker on the trail like 2 days ago and mentioned that because I was originally going to do a love story and said, I think I have a different story. And she's like, do both. And I was like, so blame her if.
He had to pay extra.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is the story of how Sue and I met. And just as quick background before you. So this took place when I had just entered recovery from drugs and alcohol. So this was 15 and a half years ago. And I had moved in with my dad and was in very, very early sobriety. So I was basically trying to. I'd hit a very hard bottom and was just trying to make myself feel better and kind of thought I had. So I was going to meetings and doing like outpatient therapy and stuff, but I decided that what I really needed were some cats. I didn't have enough money to get them, so I was like, "Dad, I need some cats." He's like, "What?" And I'm like, and he barely questioned it because I was so insufferable to be around. He was like, "Fine, yeah, we'll get you cats." I don't. So he bought me 2 kittens. They're named Thelonious and Pooh Bear, and I loved them very much. But I had a subconscious scheme going on because I decided I was going to take some pictures of myself with the cats, and then I was going to make a dating profile, and somebody else was going to fix me in my problems. So I basically began a scheme to lure somebody into my terrible life, and try to trick them into dating me so I could get better. And so this is just a bit of kind of pulling back the curtain on where my head was at. And so one day I'm surfing the dating sites, and nowadays you can basically use them like a search engine. So you make a profile and you can search for lots of different things, it turns out. So for some reason, I don't know where this thought came from, but I just thought, I wonder if anybody likes both Van Morrison and Tupac. It just those two specific. This is the only search I did, and for anyone unfamiliar, they're very different artists. But I guess I was looking for someone with an eclectic taste in music or something. For some reason, that thought occurred to me. So I did the search, and one girl named Sue Flint popped up on the screen. And I thought, well, she looks nice. So I sent her a message, and I said, Van Morrison and Tupac? And she responded, and the title of her message was Kittens? And yeah, we went on a date. My scheme worked. I tricked her. She invited me to her dorm room to listen to music, which I thought, all right. And turned out she just really actually just wanted to listen to music. Anyway, we grew on each other, and now we have 2 kids, and my whole life is different. So it's just one of those things you wonder, like, what if that thought had never occurred to me? What would my life look like now? So that's it. Any questions? No, it was like 15 years ago. So. Yeah, sometimes. Not those ones. We still have a cat. And dogs.
Now, I always ask at these, is there anybody who would like to come up and tell a story that didn't plan on it? Anyone? Anyone? No? Okay, well, it's worth a chance, right? Thank you all for being here today. It turned into a gorgeous sunny day. This morning I thought, oh, good, it's going to be rainy. Everybody will be have nothing to do, but now it's beautiful out. Thank you so much for coming. There are more refreshments back there for you to enjoy, and I hope you got to know everybody just a little bit better today. That's what's so fun about these talks. Unfortunately, Brad was supposed to be here, and I'm not sure that he's not here. So we'll hope for him in January. So we will be back again January, February, and March next year. And so you have lots of months to be thinking up your story to tell us then. Thanks so much for coming.